Time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Coach would sit on the half-court line in his chair, and he'd say, everyone's shooting right-handed layups for 20 minutes. If you did any of those things the wrong way, you just went over and bent over in front of him, and he'd paddle you while sitting in his chair. You can't do those things anymore. You can't change behavior the old-fashioned way, because as soon as one person says, oh, he's not being fair on how he manages me, then there's an uproar, and then we're all fired.
One of the things I'm proud about our team is we've been ranked for 6 weeks now or whatever it is. But, that's not easy to stay ranked once that happens. And so I think we've proven that, we're a good team, good program this year. Guys are doing great things. And certainly that was nice on Sunday that our name was mentioned in a good place. But that was just Sunday. There's still 3 more weeks to go and a ton of very difficult games ahead.
I don't really mind talking about the past. If you want to speak about when I used to wear size 32 Sassoon jeans, I'll be more than happy to speak about those days. It all depends what past you want to talk about. You want to talk about when I've acted like a fool in the past, I'd rather not speak about that.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Hope you had a great weekend. We are back together once again on what is going to be a huge night here on Sports Talk and a huge week here on Sports Talk. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, and Brian Leonard all together from our studios in downtown Columbia. The phone number, 800-956-7266. Give us a call. Love to hear from you. Your thoughts on the Gamecocks getting taken apart by Florida and the SEC taking 25 big ones out of Frank Martin's wallets today. Clemson climbing in the national polls heading into their game Wednesday at Florida State. And, of course, we've got recruiting to pass along to you, the start of spring practice for USC and Clemson around the corner. We can start talking about position battles and what to expect there. But the basketball races remain hot. USC will play at Tennessee tomorrow night at the ripe old hour of 9 p.m.
Past your bedtime, no?
It will be. I'll have to take something to stay awake. I'll be up in Knoxville to take in that game tomorrow night. And, of course, we've got college baseball cranking up on Friday. And tonight, we welcome back to the airwaves. I'm not sure he's done an interview since he announced his retirement temporarily or full-time.
His transition to other employment.
Yeah. Former USC pitching coach Jerry Myers joining us at the top of the hour to talk about him and how he's doing and what he plans to do in the future. So we have got a great lineup for you tonight. More from Frank Martin, more from Brad Brownell as well. 800-956-7266. is the phone number. Hope everybody had a great weekend. It was a busy weekend. I was at USC in Florida. And, yes, that score of South Carolina, Florida pretty much indicated how bad the Gamecocks were, 65-41. That was no accident. Florida beat them every which way you can beat a basketball team, or South Carolina played about as poorly as you can play in every category of a basketball game. Think about this. This is not my original thought. I don't mind giving credit where credit is due.
You appropriate.
Yeah, one of my buddies, who's one of the security folks down at the bottom as we go into the media room, took me aside after the game and said, "You realize that all Florida needed to win this game was one free throw in the second half." Because the Gamecocks, Florida had 41 points at the half.
Right.
The Gamecocks finished with 41 points.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, 42 points was all Florida needed to win the game.
No, they needed those points because that made South Carolina hang their heads even lower. That's the key point there. But here's what I was saying. You beat a team 3 out of 4 times, they're not going to lose to you again, and you better meet their intensity. In South Carolina, and I thought Frank Martin hit it on the head. Our team ran away from a fight. They just ran away. No, we're taking our ball and go home.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of disconnected offense. They played better defense than they had played. They didn't play good enough defense to win, but the one thing that Frank Martin said today and also said on Saturday is that the team doesn't look like it's playing together, and it doesn't look like it's playing connected. I see a lot of individual play along the perimeter. I don't see any ball reversal. I don't see any movement. I don't see any screens. And I see too much reliance on Chris Silva to try and bail them out. And he's not that he's not good enough. It's just that he plays a position where you make that very, very hard to do unless you don't have somebody who can hit shots from the outside, have the confidence to be able to step up and make a play. It's been the biggest problem all year is that this team does not have somebody who, if you put the ball in their hands, they can create on their own.
Yeah, I'd say maybe Frank Booker can. Because he's
not consistently enough.
He really is a good shooter. And I mean, he had a decent game against Florida. I mean, he was the one outside threat that they had coming off the bench. He had 17. I mean, he and Silva combined for 27 of their 41 points. So that tells you most everybody else did not show up offensively. They got nothing out of Minaya. Kotsar remains in a funk. Gravitt's playing the wrong position. Henson's a football player. Beatty's not ready. Holden is not ready coming off his knee. And Hasse, after a good start, he has slipped into Never Never Land. And Myers, since the Florida game down in Gainesville when he was great, has done nothing for him.
This is.
I should mention Jason Cudd had 3 points and 4 rebounds. Maybe you give him a start.
But here's the deal. I follow basketball a lot of times, and I've seen schizophrenic behavior from a lot of basketball teams. The team you see one night look like world beaters, then suddenly you say, who's in these uniforms? Who are we playing? This is where a point guard saves you. Everybody talks about leadership.
Right.
The point guard saves you when you've been scouted, they take away your sweet stuff, and they adjust.
Right.
That's what South Carolina does not have. That is what Georgia does not have with J.J. Frazier gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when you lose your rudder and you don't have a guy who can adjust when certain sweet things are taken away from
the scout on South Carolina is very, very simple. Run Frank Booker off the three-point line and push Chris Silva out of the paint, because when you push him out of the paint, he gets uncomfortable. And like you said, they don't have a driving threat for somebody who will want to take the ball in his hands, steal it out of his own teammates' hands if he wants to or if he has to, and get to the free throw line. They're not getting to the free throw line. They don't have anybody with the kind of confidence to be able to do that.
All right, so we have identified all the Gamecocks' problems, not the least of which, according to Frank Martin repeatedly, the one thing he keeps harping on is leadership among the players, lack of leadership. Nobody in the locker room has taken this team by the throat and said, follow me. He joked last week about the player-only meeting that they had, and he said that's just so much hogwash. And he was right, because they went out and got creamed by Florida after having that players-only meeting. So we'll see if they respond tomorrow night up at Tennessee. Tennessee came to Columbia a couple of weeks ago. An exciting ball game, the game that has started this slide for USC, an 18,000 packed arena in Columbia. Watching that game go right to the wire, and the Gamecocks could not close it out, and they have not recovered from that loss. And then you tack on the close loss to Texas Tech. Since then, the 3 losses by an average of 21 points per game. So they had to the 2 best teams, and they played them at home, the 2 best teams maybe of the 5 they've lost to, they played them to the wire. The next 3 they have lost by an average of 21.
And of course, there seems to be some performance anxiety, and you see this in teams at home, especially when a packed crowd is there. It's inexcusable. But, Corn, we go back to team leadership, and it's interesting. I go back to an interview you did with B.J. Mackey, when he said that who turned you guys around? And he said it was a guy who was little used early, and it was Hagen Rouse.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have leadership come from people who play all the time. Maybe somebody's sitting on that bench.
And it's not even
say some things too.
It's not even if you have to say something. You have somebody who needs to kind of be. They have to get to a point where they're fed up.
Yes,
and they're not.
And this is it.
They're not,
because I said what you have to hit rock bottom to bounce, and that can't be more rock bottom.
Maybe they need a locker room brawl or something. You know, just something to get. Last man standing is going to be the leader this week. Okay, we'll be right back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
All right, welcome back into Sports Talk, everybody. South Carolina Radio Network, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Get to some phone calls here in just a little bit. Frank Martin met with the media today. Now, after the game Saturday, he was pretty ticked off about the way his team, the effort, I think just the effort in his mind was lacking. And on top of that, he had some thoughts on the officials and the way they call the game. In particular, he didn't name anybody individually, but he singled out there was an official in the game. Have we ever identified who he was talking about?
Yes, he was talking about the guy who teed him up, which was Lee Castle.
Are you sure? Because he said he was talking about a guy who had left the league.
It's documented that it's Lee Castle because of the fact that he started out in the SEC with them. Last year, he was added to the ACC regular rotation. He has still done some games involving SEC teams, but he has done more ACC games this year. He did the 2016 SEC tournament. He did last year's ACC tournament. So he has transitioned into more of an ACC referee. But as I will identify, and I have to at least take this and tell people this, the officials are not bound like it is in football to one conference. They work as independent contractors, regionally based.
And he was more upset at the SEC office for bringing a guy back into the league to call games for whatever reason. For some reason, that really irritated him. You know, the game was called evenly, 16 fouls on Florida, 15 on the Gamecocks. Florida had 18 free throws. The Gamecocks had 15 free throws. Now, he was upset that there were some calls against Silva, and he didn't think Silva was getting calls inside and was getting pushed. So, you know, maybe that was his argument. Here is what he said on Saturday that drew the ire of the SEC office today.
I think I've earned my stripes on how I handle things. 11 years as a head coach. I think today was my 6th technical foul in 11 years. I got a problem when our league office puts a guy on our game that got his break in the SEC and he turned his back on the SEC to go officiate other leagues. Why are we hiring that official to officiate SEC games? That's the problem. We got our tails kicked. Officiating had nothing to do with us getting beat today. But it's so is Chris the only guy that pushes? No one ever pushes him. He leads the country in free throw attempts, but no one pushes him. But yet he's the guy that pushes everybody. No one ever fouls him when he shoots around the basket. So it's I'm fortunate. I've coached in a lot of big games. I've coached for a Big 12 championship. Obviously, all you guys that cover us, you know what we went through last year. I've coached against every team imaginable. We were at K-State. We had a chance of playing Duke, and the winners will be #1 in the country. And we got beat 14-15. I've never, ever, ever, ever spoken about officials because they got a hard job. But our league office, to allow that to happen, that's wrong. And I'm sure someone's going to call me and say, why you say that? And I'm going to tell them because it's what I feel. And I've told you this before. And you know that I've told you this in private because it's the way I feel. It's not right.
Just to break it down again, Ken Palm details the officiating assignments for these guys. He's done 9 ACC games, or at least games involving ACC teams. He's done 6 involving SEC teams, including South Carolina's win earlier this year against UTEP.
So today, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey publicly reprimanded. Did you hear that? Did you actually hear him publicly reprimanded?
It was in a statement.
Okay.
It was in a statement.
And he levied a fine of $25,000 on Martin for those comments, which, according to the statements, undermine the effectiveness and continuing enhancement of the SEC men's basketball officiating program. This is in violation of SEC bylaw 10.5.4, which prohibits coaches, players, and support personnel from all public criticism of officials making public any specific communications with the conference office related to officiating. Quote from Sankey, Frank Martin's public comments violated bylaw, blah, 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 which results in this reprimand and fine. The SEC staff and SEC's coordinator of men's basketball officiating have worked diligently over the past 2 seasons to improve the overall quality of the conference's officiating program. And blah, 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 blah. John Whittle from the Big Spur, I thought, had a very timely and pointed tweet after this came out about the SEC fining Frank Martin $25,000. Okay, that's cool. Yet it's been a couple of weeks. There's still been no action towards the Missouri athletics director and his very harsh and unproven comments towards South Carolina and Dawn Staley. And that and just hear me out here for a second. I don't want to be the conspiratorialist here, but when is the last time South Carolina has gotten a break from the SEC or the NCAA when it comes to a decision related to an appeal, whether it's for a player or something else? I mean, I'm sure they have. Not saying it's never happened, but I just think about, here you go. Martin makes a comment about a guy being in the league, and I guess calling the game, and I guess by the letter of the rule, that's a violation. He gets slapped with it. Okay, fine. He can afford it. But the athletics director at Missouri makes a unsubstantiated a comment that not only cuts to the sports, but also to the person, to the personality and the character of Dawn Staley. And nothing has come of that to this point. It's been over 2 weeks. And you go back and you think about the football players at South Carolina who they had recruited, who they had appealed to the SEC for relief in getting them in the school. Every one of them was turned down when in a couple of similar circumstances, other schools got players in. And you have this most recent case where the women's basketball transfer, they had appealed to, I guess, the SEC and the NCAA for relief to give her eligibility since she missed all of last year, and that was turned down. So I don't know, is it just me, or do I see a pattern of no towards South Carolina?
Okay. Quit trying to tie all this together because it's completely unrelated.
Okay.
I'm going to answer this all individually. Number one, the Taya Cooper thing was never going to happen because of things involving Taya and her exit from Tennessee that were less than seemly. It has nothing to do with her playing at South Carolina.
What were those?
She got in a fight with her teammates, and it didn't exactly come out very, very good in her favor.
But how should that impact her transfer?
Tennessee basically blocked it. They basically blocked her transfer. That's what they said over the weekend. Or it blocked her ability to play right away. Blocked her eligibility to play right away. It had nothing to do with South Carolina. It had everything to do with the fact that she transferred under an environment of bad PR, if you will. So it had nothing to do with South Carolina or the Gamecocks in particular.
Tennessee didn't want to play against her this year.
Basically that particular thing as well.
Play against her next year.
Again, they wanted it to be a punishment because a transfer basically is a punishment for a year. Secondly,
even though she had sat out a full year,
are you gonna let me finish?
No,
you talked for 7 minutes.
I did not talk for 7 minutes, and I just want to say this: there is a precedent. I'm talking about things that have happened where there is a precedent for allowing something to happen, and South Carolina gets turned down.
What do you expect in the SEC to do to Jim Stark? What do you want? What do you? I keep hearing that Gamecock fans and you want something to happen. Here's what happened: the two guys got called to the principal's office.
Do you want me to answer the question? You asked me a question.
Yes.
He should be fined $25,000.
Okay.
And he should be suspended from attending future Missouri athletic events for 2 weeks.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Okay. Well, you asked me what I think.
It's not going to happen. And anybody who wants any more action to come of this is barking up the wrong tree. They got called to the principal's office. The commissioner said, cool it, stop it, don't mention this again. This matter is closed. That's all they said.
So it is okay for a school in your league, the athletic director.
I didn't say it's not okay. I'm saying it's not going to happen. Quit asking for it.
A basketball coach gets hit with a $25,000 fine for questioning why an official is back calling games in the league.
Because of an official. It's in the bylaws.
But an AD is attacking a rival coach.
Let's put it in the bylaws, then we can do it.
right, just to wrap up the conversation here on what I was saying and what you were saying going into the break. I think, again, this is another bit of action towards South Carolina, or in the case of the Missouri AD, inaction that was not in South Carolina's favor. You say that it's been settled and we should move on. Basically, it's been swept under the rug. And I say you've got an AD, whatever Greg Sankey decided here, and he wants everybody just to move on and forget about it, doesn't mean it's a right decision on his part. And if you're South Carolina and if you're Ray Tanner, you should not be finished with this, because you cannot as a commissioner, you cannot have an AD in your league accuse a school of racism and using that kind of language and other things that they were accused of, and also have the AD publicly call out another coach in your league, as he did with Dawn Staley, and not suffer some consequences if you don't have the proof to back it up. And nobody has presented the proof. What makes you think
he didn't reprimand him behind closed doors? What makes you think he didn't reprimand him?
I don't know. I wasn't in the meeting. I don't know that he did or didn't.
So we're like the people in the town square. You know, we want to see him put in the stop.
I know you want to see
people. No, but here's the key point. Ray Tanner himself said, "Look, he and the Missouri athletic director work in concert.
They need to be able to work together.
They're part of a team of 14 athletic directors.
Exactly.
And he understands that. But here's the point I want to let all fans of any school, and let them know right now. Get in your head, there's no such thing as fairness. But guess what? There is justice. You don't know where it's coming from, but it's going to happen. Keep your eyes open.
This is the statement that Sankey made last Thursday. This is what basically happened right before the UConn game. He said, "I've had discussions with athletics directors at both institutions. Competition is highly intense, but can never compromise the expectation of respect between our institutions. Coach Pinchton and Coach Staley have both worked tirelessly to build nationally ranked teams comprised of outstanding student athletes, and both teams should be celebrated for their success. I look forward to meeting in person with both athletic directors to reaffirm these shared priorities and expectations." That means the matter is closed.
No, it doesn't. He says, "I look forward to." He says, "I look forward to meeting with." That does not say he had met with them.
The matter's closed, Corn.
Does that
Jim Sturck has too much pride to apologize at this point?
That's his problem.
I'm not saying it isn't his problem.
I mean, he's ignorant.
I think that he should apologize. But I'm telling you,
apologize.
It's not going to happen. So don't worry about things that aren't going to happen. He's a jerk. He's a buffoon. He spoke out of turn. It's all wrong. I get it. I understand it. But here's the issue. It's not going to happen because he has too much pride, because he was dumb enough to make the statement in the first place.
The fact that you state it's not going to happen, to my knowledge, does not mean it's not going to happen, or anything is not going to be resolved in the case. And for Gamecock fans who are upset about it still, and I think there are Gamecock fans who are upset about it, they have the right to be until something is resolved publicly, that they know some action was taken or there was an investigation, and he proved what he said was accurate, that there was racist comments, that there was things thrown at the players.
We're so far away from this now. What are you going to find? What are you going to find now? We're so far away. This was 3 weeks ago this happened.
Okay, so why can't South Carolina demand some sort of resolution of this case?
They can, but it's not
going to happen.
So why waste
It's like me demanding I want Kate Upton's number. I can demand it all I want. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it.
It's two different things, of course. You wouldn't have a chance to get
you're not getting
Lee Upton's number, much less.
You're not getting a Jim Sturck apology, and you're not getting any more resolution other than what's already been said. That's because they want these guys to work in a peaceful, collegial manner. Because this is the way the SEC handles
every
its
time
business.
Missouri comes to South Carolina, and every time that AD comes with one of his teams to South Carolina, it's not going to be a friendly atmosphere.
So what?
So what?
So
what? So any AD now can call out an opposing. What if he had called out Will Muschamp? What if, for whatever reason, he had said Will Muschamp's a dirty coach and he coaches his players to
Auburn's coach called Missouri a dirty team to no fanfare or to no repercussion. He literally called them during the SEC tournament like a year ago a dirty team.
Well, Auburn's coach this year, the women's coach, she came to the press conference first thing, dirty team. Dirty team.
Who's this?
The Auburn's women's coach.
Oh, yeah.
About Missouri. So again, it's just like these things happen.
Well, when you call somebody dirty, that's one thing. When you call them a racist, when you accuse fans of using that kind of language, when you accuse them of spitting on your team, leaving the court, when you say the coach fosters an environment of danger and nastiness and stuff like that, I think that's a little over the top, and I think it should result in more than just getting together in a meeting and then shoving it behind a rock and saying we've moved on. Okay, I think there should be some punishment involved here. You asked me way back, what should be done. I told you what I think should be done. Now, you say it ain't going to happen. That wasn't your question. You didn't ask me if I thought it was going to happen. You asked me what I thought should be done. And that's what I told you.
The only thing that's going to happen is, and if I'm Dawn Staley, I'm not wasting my time. She could file suit against him for defamation.
Oh, I think she's thought about it.
Oh, I think she's
made that comment.
Yeah.
She's made that comment. Let's go to Hank in Columbia, 800-956-7266. Hank, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine. All right, my problem with, I guess, your co-host, excuse me, is saying is that when the AD went and vote Dawn's name in it, that's when the big issue came. Anything larger than fans in a general manner.
I have no problem. I have no problem agreeing with you there. I have no problem agreeing with you there.
And because of that, at that point, there needs to be an apology. And I'm going to rely on some past history coin.
Mm-hmm.
One, I'm going to give you two instances that there needs to be some type of public apology from the guy. You can handle it or by the league, and if he doesn't do it, then give him a fine or whatever. When Fine Bonds kind of used that personal statement that they've been clowning, they kind of went on TV and said, "Oh no, we're not going to open up the SEC. The guy's going to take individual shots at a player."
Mm-hmm.
And Fine Bond came back with an apology. He had not yet started working for the SEC network, but it was agreed when you take something and you make it personal to a particular player, that's a problem.
Correct.
I'm gonna go ahead.
And then this is my other thing. A couple years ago, when we really had all the problems with the racial tensions on the campus and all of the coaches, to have that and have anything come out of that would be one thing. To have somebody come on and say, well, Gary Tinkle cultivated that type of thing, then that brings us to another level. So if they're not mad about what he says about hostile atmosphere and everything, this one he used Dawn's name to say that she encouraged or cultivated that as a commissioner, you got to step up, put your big boy pants on for the officials.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do it for your coach.
I'm not saying your vitriol. I'm not saying your vitriol is unwarranted because, and let me make sure that I'm not misunderstood here, because you tried to twist my words on Friday about this issue, and you couldn't because you weren't listening.
Who was we?
You.
Who was me?
You tried to twist my words. I am not saying that South Carolina doesn't deserve an apology. I'm not saying Jim Sterk shouldn't apologize. Jim Sterk should apologize. What he said was wrong. I'm on record as saying that. I believe on the first day that this thing happened, I called him a buffoon. And I stand by that statement because what he said was low class and did not deserve to be said to the person he said it towards. But if you're wasting your time worrying about whether or not an apology is going to come or a fine is going to come or any type of discipline is going to come, you're wasting your time because it's not going to come because the SEC wants this to go away.
Right.
So here's how you fix that. You beat him on the floor.
They did.
And I'm saying, when you see him again in Nashville.
They'll beat him on the floor.
So then that's how you make that work.
Oh, I'm countering you I'm just countering you by saying the fans want a resolution. You want it to go away, or you say it should go away because there's not going to be anything done.
I'm not saying it should go away. I'm saying that's what
represent on this airwave when we talk about the Gamecocks. They want something resolved here, and I'm pointing out that this is if nothing is done, as you suggest, to me, it's just another in a long line of things from the SEC not done in favor of or not done at all or done against USC's interest in football or basketball.
No justice, no peace.
I'm saying something like that. Be right back.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, 800-956-7266. Coming up, former Gamecock pitching coach Jerry Myers. At the top of the hour, we'll hear from Clemson basketball coach Brad Brownell and more from Frank Martin on the bad stretch of play by his team currently. Catch up on a couple of quick things. The new basketball polls for this week came out today. Clemson moving up in both the AP and the coaches. Tigers number 11, moving up 5 spots by the AP, and they are number 12 by the coaches at 20-4. Virginia, number 1 in the AP, followed by Michigan State, Villanova, Xavier, and Cincinnati. Then it's Purdue, Texas Tech, Ohio State, Gonzaga, and Auburn at number 10. Tennessee, USC's opponent tomorrow night, is number 18. It's Michigan State, number 1 by the coaches, followed by Villanova, Virginia, Xavier, and Cincinnati. The NCAA Tournament Selection Committee issued their top 16 seeds yesterday. Clemson was a number 3 seed by the committee, and so the Tigers are still holding firm 2 or 3, depending on who you want to listen to. But I mean, the committee is the ultimate voice. That's the one you got to follow the closest.
I think they overseeded a couple of teams, Kansas in particular.
Yeah.
Kansas lost again. Mm-hmm. They keep on losing.
And they're losing to Fog Allen, which is strange. I know what they try to do with this. I'm ambivalent about it. I don't care. I like to be just surprised on Selection Sunday instead of trying to do like football.
That's what they're taking their cue from.
Yeah.
They're taking their cue from the rating show with the college football playoff.
Yes. Ole Miss and Andy Kennedy are parting ways after this season. The all-time winningest coach at Ole Miss, never finishing worse than 7-9 in the SEC, struggling this year, 11-14, 5-game losing streak. So Andy Kennedy will be looking for a new coaching job. Back to the phones we go here on Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. Daniel in Charleston, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Good.
All right, well, I want to say, Phil, I agree with you completely. And, I think it's different saying in general that you have a dirty team, which, a coach or a teacher, anyway, but it's a lot different when you're making specific allegations that are not backed up with any evidence. And more than one specific allegation, rather than making a general comment about the tone of the team and the team. And then the other thing that I would say is, I do agree that, a fine may not happen, we may not get an apology, but if we don't make noise about it, then, this is something that can continue to happen. If you're taking a stand against something that is going wrong and is not being handled properly, a lot of times you're not going to get the outcome that you desire, but it's because you were trying to change the culture or make the governing body recognize the culture. And the last thing I want to say is it is kind of silly, as I heard some people say, that Frank Martin is getting a fine when he was, making some comments that weren't really all that inflammatory about an official. Yes, we just need to understand that people can take care of their own before they, try to help the programs that are actually generating their revenue. Probably shouldn't be too surprised by that if you think about it. But anyways, I would say I agree with you, Phil, that we should be, that the circus jerk should be getting some kind of a fine or being forced into some kind of apology. I don't know if we'll get it, but I think we still need to make a noise about it just to make sure that we're heard, and that hopefully, the NCAA will release it.
Listen, thank you for letting me talk, guys. Thank you. Just because South Carolina fans don't get their pound of flesh, don't make like Greg Sankey didn't yell and moan and scream both of these guys behind closed doors.
We don't know this. What do we know? We don't know this.
We know that both of these guys are not talking about it anymore. And probably because Greg Sankey said, zip the lip.
So what? So what? That does not equate to a punishment. That does not give you a pound of flesh if you're a Gamecock fan.
You're not going to get a pound of flesh. I told you, you're not going to get one.
You haven't showed me where it's been closed. Have the 2 athletic directors gone in and met with Sankey? Have they had that meeting?
I can't confirm that or deny that.
I mean, have they? Yes, it's a yes or no question. I'm not aware. Did they meet? I read his release on Thursday.
I released
and you
last
said
Thursday.
he looks forward to
Actually,
the
it's actually from 2 weeks ago Thursday. Sorry. So I'm guessing they said they were going to meet the following week. So given that particular timeline, they would have already met. But again, the fact that nothing is coming out of this tells me that they're not. They want this just to go away. They want it to go away.
Fine. I understand they want a lot of things to go away. They want the investigation at Auburn to go away. I'm sure when Cam Newton's thing came up, they wanted to go away. I'm sure they did. Did it make anybody happy that Cam Newton got $200,000, or his dad got $200,000 to deliver him to Auburn? Listen, they wanted to go away.
I'm not happy he said what he said.
Wherever he was going to be delivered.
I'm not happy he said what he said about South Carolina and Dawn Staley. I thought it was wrong. I thought that there should be some restitution involved. But like I said, I don't worry myself about things that aren't going to happen.
Let's see here. I'm looking at the story here. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and sit down with Ray Tanner and Jim Sturk. Sankey will meet with both Tanner and Sturk to discuss the aftermath. This was back on the 1st, a week ago, February 3rd.
Yes,
today. I believe almost chance.
The 12th. It's the 12th. It was right before the UConn game a week ago Thursday.
Right.
So they were supposed to meet last week, given the way that timeline of that story said.
So have they met?
We don't know. And quite honestly, they probably like it that way. They want this to go away. If I'm behind closed doors, don't make any comment.
Time out. Tanner met with the trustees on Friday, did he not?
Yes.
Did I not recall a story?
Yes, that's correct.
Did he not say something about wanting?
He said something about
wanting to, or had?
He said something about wanting a retraction from.
No. Did he say anything about meeting that he had met, or I can't say if you look that up. We'll go.
He said that he said that we talked with those guys. We talked with the commissioner's office and we talked with Jim Sturk. He said it wouldn't find it appropriate to disclose those what took place in that discussion, but it would like an apology from Sturk, is what he said. But again,
so that sounds to me like it's not over with. If he wants an apology, it's not over with. And I don't know if they have met in the office of the commissioner in Birmingham or just what. Let's go to Glenn in North Charleston. He's been holding for a while. Hello, Glenn. How are you?
How you doing, guys?
Good.
I hate to break up this argument, but I got some. I was talking about flying sports. I got a friend that was meeting with the Italian people that's doing the World Baseball League, and we're trying to put together a team. We have the logistics put together, what do you say, blah, blah, blah. We try to get it put together by the one time a year, and we call it the World Baseball League Invitational Tournament for the visual impaired, and we're also inviting 10 to 15, and I hope veterans join, because I'm a veteran. I want other veterans to join in this, and we can battle teams from all over the world, and it'll be great for Charleston.
Sounds good. Keep us up to date as to how things progress with that. Sounds like it's starting to come together.
Here's the statement. He said that he spoke with Jim Sturk about his comments. I will not disclose any contents of the conversation. He said, I am hoping in the near future there will be some sort of resolution and that our commissioner is very concerned. Jim Sturk and I are not at odds, but I was clear that in my opinion this public apology will be appropriate. I don't think he's offended by my but parenthetically that Jim Sturk has too much pride to do that.
Okay, whatever. They haven't met yet. It hasn't been resolved. And I would think that Ray Tanner, at the very least, will get an apology public. A private apology doesn't cut it because he didn't go behind closed doors to make his complaints. He made his complaints public. Had he called Ray up and privately said, hey, Ray, I got this problem.
You can call up Don.
Then you can, no. If he just said to Ray, hey, I got this problem, and then later found out it was wrong, probably apologized. He chose to go public. He chose to make the accusation. He needs to publicly apologize if he is wrong.
I'll be happy to say I'm wrong if a public apology comes, but I'm just not holding my breath for it.